We're just getting set up here. Bear with me if you're tuning in. Alright, welcome to Gardening with my cat. She is over there in the shade because it's warm for her today. But what we're working on is trimming up some plants that we brought home from work. As you can see here, they're all dead and stuff. Not my fault, they were weeds that needed taken care of, but that's okay. So we're just going to chop these guys up for some composting. As you can see here, we've got a big old flower bed we're putting in. We're working on it. It's not where I want it yet, but I keep adding stuff to it, so it eventually will be. Just gonna work our way through, get all the stuff we need where we want it, and we'll move on to the next task. I'm not sure how many of you already garden, but if you do, let me know what your favorite kind of plants are. I only grow perennials for the most part. I got a few annuals I'll do every once in a while. Like this year I'm doing, what are we doing? Bottle gourd, and giant bottle gourd, and birdhouse gourd. But for the most part I tend to only stick to perennials because buying the same plant multiple times just kind of sounds silly to me, you know? You kind of see over here. What we've got in here so far is... what have we put in here so far? We got coffee grounds. We've put in some, you can see here as it's breaking down, some paper. I get all these paper bags at work every Thursday, so I make it a point to harvest all of them, bring them home, mulch them up with a little bit of water. I usually add a little bit of yeast or something in there to help them break down, so we've got a nice microclimate here in the ground. But it's nothing too hard to do if you're thinking about gardening or do already and would like to do so better. Composting is your best friend. It's free, natural, organic, all those buzzwords. Just pretty much anything that rots, put it in the ground. There's always some little tiny secrets to making things better that you can do. Things like mulching up the dead stuff, which is what we're doing today, because there is a lot of it, and I don't think it's going to break down like I want it to if I don't mulch it up a little. But I know a lot of folks that like Twitch are usually on the nerdier side. If you like games like Stardew Valley or Harvest Moon or whatever, don't hesitate to buy yourself a basil pot, man. Even if you've got the touch of death, is what I feel like a lot of people call it with plants, it can be very relaxing, very soothing to kind of sit outside with Mother Nature for a little bit and just kind of forget all your worldly troubles for a little bit. I know it helps me a lot. I mean, I'm not the most stressed person in the world, but we've all got our problems, you know? So we all have different ways that we deal with them. I will say that if you're going to garden, though, you definitely want gloves. I use these nitrile dealios, and they work pretty okay, but I use them for a lot of different stuff, whether we're working on bones or whatever. We'll usually wear gloves while we're doing that. A little doggy coming by. So, key to another thing with composting is layering. You don't want stuff just kind of flopped in there. You want to make sure you give yourself some layers in your compost to not allow dry pockets, or like what I call like hermetic sealing. So when you put stuff like grass or anything that gets kind of squishy as it goes down the old decaying route, you want to have something in there to kind of act as a filter of sorts, so that it can't seal itself off and deny oxygen in there. Because while there are anaerobic bacterias that do break things down, you definitely want those aerobic bacterias working for you to help break everything down faster. Now, if you don't care in what timely manner you break down all of your stuff, then just chuck shit in there and yell yeet. I've done that too. I mostly prefer a nice fast breakdown, so that's why I'm out here in the sun breaking stuff down. But I've got kitty company. One of the neighbor's dogs is barking. He's saying hi to my other neighbor's dog. I got a bunch of dogs in the neighborhood. They're all pretty good. It's my first time streaming on Twitch. I'm sure it shows. But I'm giving things a shot. I've never used this platform before. I'm kind of new to all of this media platforms. I also do YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So if you are into the kind of gardening and like rock playing and all those kind of things, I do rock polishing and been working on getting good at wrapping those. And I have the idea to maybe do some gaming streams on here, but overall we're going to be focused on gardening and nature stuff. That's not to say that there won't be the occasional thing that deviates from that format, though. So what I should have done when I started doing this is shredded up this paper a little better, because it gets thick and your microbes and stuff like that can't get to it, so you got to keep tearing it up as you go. In my defense, there was an insane amount of it. We get these enormous catalogs at work from Uline, which they make very good products. I'm very thankful for all that we get from Uline. But I don't need to know your entire warehouse repertoire more than once, and they usually send one about every month. And they just hang out and stack up. So I take them and I soak them in water and then shred them into a bajillion pieces. Which there's worse things to do, you know? Beats them rotting in some landfill. They get to rot in my front yard instead. I'm such a giver. So I'll just sit here and chop these things up for a little while. Roommate will be home here at some point. I'll probably go off for a bit to say hi to him. It was actually him that showed me that streaming on Twitch doesn't have to be this big ornate ordeal. It can just be talking to a camera with nobody listening, and that's okay. A lot of what I think has driven me towards gardening is it's good for your mental health. It really is. Sitting out there and maintaining some poor organism that'll croak without your guiding hand it's really refreshing, you know? It makes you feel like you matter. I mean, you don't in the grand cosmic eye of things. I'm not that silly. But there's nothing wrong with your local biosphere requiring your assistance for it to function optimally. And you don't have to grow any kind of crazy stuff to call yourself a gardener. Like I grow all kinds of weird, wacky plants from all over. But I've been mostly focusing this year actually on getting local plants. Because there's a lot of really cool stuff that grows here in Ohio. We kind of get guff for not being a very cool state, but a fair amount of the natural plant life here is really beautiful. Got stuff like liatris, oljopieweed. What else do I have here that's natural? Oh, elderberry is really pretty. People like the elderflower. If you ever had Saint Germain or from Germany, you'd be a fan of it already probably, because the flowers they use for May wine and elderberry cordial, or elderflower cordial, and then the berries usually get made into pies and things like that, which is pretty neat. The berries are very strange, don't get me wrong. It's like a tomatoey grape is the best way that I can describe elderberry to you. And maybe I picked them too soon or too late, I don't know yet. This is my first year growing them, but they are very prolific. We'll do a little tour here after I get tired of breaking up compost and talking. Because we got you guys on a stand here. Because I'm fancy and bought a camera stand. Because I do intend to keep doing stuff like this, whether it's through Twitch or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. It'll definitely be a product I use. A work expense, we'll call it. So, as you can see, we're just macerating plant material. Real exciting. But that's not the exciting part why you came here. We're here to educate about plants, and that, like, even if you're nerdy, if you're skinny, you're fat, you can garden, man. You can. Get out there, I mean, it's done to death, but get out there and get active. You got to get up from your computer chair every once in a while, or you'll die terribly young, and that's not okay. Man, it's not okay to shuffle off your mortal coil way earlier than you intend to. And a lot of people combat that with, I came here to live for a good time, not a long time, which is understandable. I mean, I eat microwave burritos every once in a while. I'm not so terrified of anything processed or lethargy that I have to, book jazzercise classes when I'm on vacation. More what my point is that just take care of yourself a little, and you'll see great improvements in your life, And if what you need is a little bit more activity in your life, then gardening is a great way to do that. Gets you outside, gets you a little bit of sun, you'll be up, walking around, doing stuff, and the place around you looks good on top of it. And some people say, well, I don't have a house, or blah, 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 I'm a renter. Who cares? Get some pots. Terracotta pots are cheap. If you can't afford terracotta, just cut the top off a milk jug and put some holes in it. Boom, you are now the official gardener lad. Proud of you. And again, you don't have to grow anything that's really crazy. Basil, super easy to grow. And you have boatloads of basil in your house, and who doesn't want that? You can grow cilantro, it's really easy. If you're doing it in pots, mint is okay. I'm very fervently against putting mint in the ground, though, because it will ruin your life. It will burn your house down. It will ruin your credit score. That is what mint does. But no, for really, it's a very prolific plant. And what starts as a tiny, cute little thing you got at Meijer or Kroger or wherever they usually have those little herb bindles is now your front yard. Your yard is mint. Your house is mint. Your life is mint. Mint. Which, it smells good, it's useful and all that, but I don't think I need enough mint to fill an entire yard, right? Or at least I would think not. I could be wrong in that. Let's check on Bubs. Bubs, you being a cat over there? Being a cat? Yeah, you being a cat. She recently got fixed and is now able to come outside and play with me like she always wanted to. She used to sit up in the window up there and just angrily or sadly, maybe a little bit of both, meow at me. And that's just all she did. So I figured after she was got her lady bits removed, that we could then have her outside to play. So that's nice. She just kind of coos and caws and occasionally butt wiggles at a bird or firefly or whatever, depending on what time of day it is. I'm thirsty, but I remembered a giant jug of water because you have to hydrate or you will dehydrate. Shout out to all my hydration homies. So I'll be doing this for a while, just breaking stuff up, making sure there's no real big clumps here. And this is my own fault. If you're looking at this and thinking, oh no, composting is annoying. It's not if you aren't a lazy jerk about it. Not to say that I'm constantly a lazy jerk, but I did screw this one up, which I already fixed. There's another bed over, let's see here, gesturing, so back behind there. That I did the same thing with. I just kind of chucked stuff in it, and I had to sit through and do it all again. I guess you get to do it till you do it right, right? Right? Which is fine. You just gotta cut your losses sometimes and correct your stupid. What this will also do in the long run, and why I'm doing it, is if you see, there, let's get a good look here. Look at that. Your dirt shouldn't do that. So that means that there's a lot, well, you can do it with some other dirt, but that means there's a lot of clay in here. Clay soil, which is fine for some plants, but overall I usually try to avoid a large amount of clay. So as we work through this and get all of this plant material and whatnot in there, we'll see a healthier, happier dirt. Which, happy dirt makes delicious food, or pretty flowers. We'll give you guys a little tour around the house after we finish this up a little later. So you can see why I keep doing all of this stuff and have this as a hobby, because you would think that toiling like an 18th century peasant wouldn't exactly be anyone's idea of relaxing. And I wouldn't blame you for that. But it can be a lot of fun, it really can. And if you have a grandma or anything like that, grandmas love this shit. They really do. And you can bring them flowers, and I don't know if you've ever brought someone flowers that you actually grew, but like they get all sappy and like, oh. It's a good feeling too. You're like, that's pretty, and I made that. I make the pretty things. It's a very weird, guttural, caveman feeling. So you see me throwing things off screen. We're just putting it over here, and as I work through this pile, which there is a sizable pile here, we'll rake this here onto here, and we'll take care of the stuff that's over there that I have missed. Real exciting, I know. But, you don't come here for plant stuff yet, do you? Maybe you come here to listen to me talk to myself, I don't know. So we're just a shredding and a shredding and a shredding and a shredding and a shredding. Look at the cat over there, she's doing cat stuff. What most of this junk is just, I think it's mostly catalogs, yeah, that's what it is. So that stuff should break down to some nice soil for the plants that I put here, which I think I'm going to do ironweed here, because it's really pretty. I might do another liatris or blazing star. It looks like a firework. It's awesome. Like I was talking about Ohio plants being neat. It's hard to believe people plant shit that's purely decorative when there's so many cool things around it. And I mean, of course, I'm not implying any kind of maliciousness there. I'm sure that it's more to do with the fact that people just don't know. But there's lots of good resources out there if you want to learn about your local plants. I'm here in lovely Ohio, so obviously I'm planting things there. If you live in New York, you probably don't want to grow the things that I'm growing because they're not local and probably can't survive there, which maybe. Ohio gets pretty cold. I don't know if it gets New York cold. You probably have higher precipitation amounts as well. I'm just chucking some dirt over here to kind of layer in a little bit ahead of time. I'll take a hoe to everything and kind of whack and smack and hack and chop that meat for a little bit. And then that should get the residual chunky boys to be put together. Scissors fell apart. Come on. There you go. Much better. So gardening is a thing that it kind of grew on me out of a brewing hobby, right? So I work in the commercial beer industry presently, or less the commercial industry and more the homebrew side of things now. I just kind of teach people how to make booze, which, there's worse jobs. But I started this to be able to make weird beers with native edible plants. So I started growing all of those, and then I kind of started getting burnt out on brewing, but the plant stuff was still kind of interesting. So I just kind of went nuts with it over the last 2 years. And then, probably in what I imagine is a drunken stupor, I just decided to start working on doing that as a little side fun thing. Started a Facebook and Instagram and all that. And the next logical thing was multimedia, and streaming seems to be a popular thing that people do now. So we're trying that out. I've tried it on a couple platforms. I don't know which one will stick, but we'll see. You gotta figure out what you want to do with your life, and I'm young enough that if I choose to be some sort of weirdo gardener streamer person, I can do that. So we're just trying things out, seeing what we can do. I'm not gonna quit my job tomorrow. That would be insane. And just kind of slowly move it to that this is what I do. All great leaps start with tiny steps, You gotta wiggle yourself to the point where that leap is possible. Set up a net, so to speak, beneath you of previously laid plans. Plans within plans. I may do some League of Legends streams here. I'm bad. My friends are bad, but we have a good time. We do. And I feel like that's the point of video games, right? Like everyone's like, I want to be like master tier, and I'm just like, I would like to play a game where someone doesn't make up new swear words to call me. That would be cool. League of Legends is known as a fairly toxic game. Anyone that's played it, I can tell you that much. But it's okay as long as I've got friends along for the proverbial spanking. I'm very okay with it. Because there's more butts to beat. Mine doesn't get the soul beating. Oh, clomping and flopping and chopping dirt. Got a call from my dad earlier today. He had... Oh, something fell. What? Where are you? He went to the doctor today to get his jawbones ground down. Nope. It's one of those like things that someone tells you and you go and brush your teeth, because it's not his fault that it happened. He always had good teeth. He went through chemo. And I guess through that, it caused his teeth to rot, so now he's on the mend. It's awesome. I'm super happy about it. My dad has been very supportive of all this weirdness. I don't think that he understands it, really. I mean, how could you? The world in his lifetime has like completely mutated into this, I don't want to call it a hellscape because that's done to death, but things ain't like they used to be. But he sees that doing stuff like this makes me happy, so he's been nothing but supportive. Which I don't know if, well, I would hope you've had parental support in your life, but it just feels really good when you're doing something strange and you're unsure of yourself and you get that parental reinforcement. It's really important. My dad and I were estranged for a long time when I was a kid. Not his fault. Not my fault. To some degree. I definitely, early on, did not try as hard as I probably should have to have a relationship with my dad, and that's on me, you know? You can't beat yourself up about it. Obviously, do what you can to with the time you've got left, but it's important to try to enjoy the present and not strangle yourself over the things of the past. Don't forget them, obviously, but, you know, I don't need to self-flagellate because I was a shitty teenager, you know. Maybe some people do. I don't see the point of it. You gotta move past it, keep growing, and again, work with the time you have left. I'm 30, so I got what I'd imagine, unless I get hit by a bus tomorrow or develop pancreatic cancer suddenly, I got some years left. So that's a lot of what motivates me to do this, is to kind of move towards something that makes me happy again. Like I said, working as a brewer for the longest time was 100% what I wanted to do. And then that industry didn't turn out to be what I wanted it to be. Rather, it's me not fitting into the political climate, or the political microclimate of it, or just not being cool enough, I don't know. But it didn't work out like I wanted it to. I achieved my dream and it felt more like a nightmare. Which, admitting that to yourself is important, you know? You can't sit there and keep doing the same thing every day, day in, day out, and when you're miserable, especially, and be like, well, maybe it'll get better, and not make any changes, thinking that magically one day you'll wake up and everything will be okay, and that's just not how life works, you know? You have to figure out what the problem is, and work towards solving it, if it's within your power to solve. Like, if you're sad that you're blind, there's no solving that presently. There seems to be scientific developments for stuff like that coming on, but there are people that were dealt shit hands in the world that have accomplished more than I ever could. So looking at that as motivation is kind of what I try to do, is that if people with such rough hands can do things, I mean, mine wasn't great, but if these people can do as much as they have, what's stopping me, you know? I don't have a extremely lucrative job, so I'm not risking that. I don't make a terrible lot of money, right, doing what I do, so what's to stop me from trying to live out some silly fantasy? Again, because I achieved the brewing one. A lot of my family thought I was crazy, rightfully probably so, and I managed to happen. I accomplished what I wanted to. I was a professional brewer, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And that was great or whatever. If you're a pro brewer and you're happy with it, I'm very glad for you. But I got very burnt out between the fanfare to whatever's currently popular and the ignorance to drinking problems within the industry, or pick your thing, really. There's all kinds of negative stuff. If you think that being a pro brewer is just making beer and drinking all the time, some of that's true. But there's also a lot of, oops, I cut my glove. No. There are a lot of hard-working, knock-down, drag-out days, and it sounds mean, but the end user doesn't really care about the person that brewed the beer. They only care that it's good. So, if you're looking for someone to respect you because you made their favorite potable, you might get lucky. You might get lucky. I know some people have some high regard for some of the more well-known ones, like Jean from Cantillon or whatever. But just being your average production brewer, no one will remember your name, as it were. So, not to crap on anyone's hopes and dreams, but it's not the greatest job. It's not the worst job by far. But I feel like if I had put as much effort into doing other things, that I could have accomplished a lot more. So, realizing that was a hard thing to swallow, you know. I lost my job a few years back as a commercial brewer for a bit, and ended up kind of reeling for a bit, but I got my feet under me again. In that same week, I lost a girlfriend, found out my dad had cancer, yeah, and there was like something else that happened, I don't remember, I probably blocked it out of my noodle. But, yeah, it was a real shit week. And people have bad days, you know. It's not how hard you get knocked up, it's how many times you get up after getting beat down. That's a sports quote from somewhere. I don't know. But I got up with minimal mental damaging. I did go on to get some chemical help to help fight off what you can imagine was soul-crushing depression when your world kind of burns down around you. And there's no shame in that. There's none at all. I heavily agree with pharmaceuticals to help combat negative mental stimuli. I do believe that if you are diagnosed with depression, that you should go to counseling, go to anything that helps. If going to swim meets makes you feel better, do that. You can't just start taking the drugs and expect to magically feel like $1 million. That's not how it works. And that's a hard pill to swallow, right? Like, there's this kind of carrot feel to antidepressant meds, where you think, oh man, if I take these, everything will suddenly be better. And that's not how it works. You have to keep going, keep growing. It's just kind of like a walking cane, you know? You can lean on it a little to help you stand when you feel weak and all that good stuff. But it's not a one-set fix, you know? In the end, it's on you to find out what makes you happy. And you can't focus too much on just pure happiness, because it's just a state of mind, right? Or a state of being. Happiness, elation, whatever you want to call it. Where you feel better. But it's not a constant state, right? You have to learn that there are other feelings within the human scope, you know? And that just because you're taking a capsule doesn't mean suddenly you will be like some sort of Brady Bunch-esque person and everything will be smiles and malt shakes. Nope. You got to keep working, whether you want to go towards fitness, you want to focus on a craft project, you want to... Hell, if you want to have the biggest rubber band ball and that's what gets you through the day, my dude, do it to it. But there is no one size fits all for managing depression. Just not how it works. And that's a hard thing to swallow too. It is. But while it's fun to meme and laugh about your depression, if you're sad all the time and you feel down, fucking stand up and do something about it. It's really important. I resisted it for years. These guys. And finally nutted up, whatever you want to call it, and went to my doctor and was like, I need help. and she worked with me to find what works for me, because my good may be your bad, you know? I'm not a ray of sunshine, but I feel like I am, at the very least, more tolerable. I found myself being a little more antisocial, I think, overall, but that's probably more on my ethics of operating than it is anything else. They say as you get older, you get crotchetier. That was crotchety default. So, age has done nothing to help that. But I feel like this streaming thing will help with that. Help get me out of my comfort zone, get me out of my routine, if you will. I'm not expecting to be some sort of Twitch star overnight, but it would be cool to have, like, 5 people in a lounge or whatever, a lobby. That would be real nice. If you ever had any mental health problems and you need someone to talk to, I'm always here. And I know everyone always says that, but I know what it's like to be alone and feel like you got nobody. Even if there's people there, like in the house with you, or your family's around, and you just don't feel like they get it. I know what that feels like. They want to reach out to me on Twitch or Facebook or whatever it takes, your preferred platform. And I'm not going to tell you how to fix your life. It's not for me to do. It's for you to know. But just having someone listen and feeling like you're being heard can do a lot. Can do a lot. They always say give people the suicide hotline. It makes people feel weaker, I feel like. Like, wow, I don't have anyone I can talk to, so I have to call this hotline for someone to listen to my sad sack problems. So just having any person, whether you know them or not, that'll listen, will do a lot to help you out. It really will. I got deep and dark on mental health issues, didn't I? But gardening makes me feel good. I think it's because there's a direct trade-out, right, between my efforts and the beauty rendered. Not to say that occasionally I don't kill a plant or two. That's the nature. To try is to fail, right? Occasionally. You just learn a little and try again, so you fail less next time. That's important. That you keep trying. Failure is just part of the gig, man. Or at least that's what I've found as I've done stuff. I'm nowhere near perfect. I could be making, way more money if I was book learned or any kind of wealthy or driven, like I wanted to be a CEO or something like that. I'm pulling this big guy up. But I watched my dad a lot growing up, and he's kind of worked himself to death. I know why he did it. He wanted to have a good home, a good home for his kids, a good... my dad's still alive, by the way, but we're not talking to me like he's croaked. He wanted to have a good home for us kids and give us everything he didn't have growing up and all that good stuff. But he sacrificed a lot of time with us, time with his friends too, I imagine, and just so much sacrifice. And there was lots of financial payout, but then he got sick and blew through a lot of his savings. And at the end there, listening to him and like watching him, it's like, man, to work that long and that hard to do stuff and then still kind of feel like you're left with nothing. I don't want that, because he broke his body, his hips, his back. I'm sure my dad has some stage of black lung, and I'm not saying that every career is going to like beat you down if you focus on some arbitrary desk job, but I've seen it break people, and I really don't like that. The idea of being stuck in a cubicle forever and just like slowly dying is my personal nightmare. And there's people that work desk jobs that are completely happy, and if you are, good on you, man. Nothing wrong with that. I am not shaming your lifestyle in the slightest. I'm just saying that stereotypical office jockey thing has always been a thing of my nightmares. Like, you're just a drone in a hive, and you're there until you die. It's like the old Simpsons thing, where it's like, remember, you're here forever, and he changes to do it for her. Very heart-touching and all that, but I just don't want to die behind a desk. I really don't. I'm making some good progress on this. Which is why I'm doing this. I've got a passion. I'm fairly knowledgeable on things, and I'm a quick learner. So there's not really anything to stop me from just trying my little heart out. I mean, the stakes are the same as when I was a brewer, you know. Succeed or fail, and then you can be like everyone else in your generation, live in your parents' basement and post about wanting to kill yourself all the time. So, there's the worst possible scenario, in my opinion. The best one is that I achieve my dreams and live the life that I want to live. Is it going to be easy? God, no. It's going to take lots of effort and hard work and, hell, probably begging. Please watch my streams, please. But that's okay, you know? You gotta work towards your goals. It's really important. And even if your goals are silly, it doesn't matter. Because what's silly to you might be the coolest shit in the world to someone else. Like, think about little kids, right? They show you some macaroni art thing they made, and like it's a potato at best, right? But that little kid is so proud of what they did. I say that we should all aspire for that kind of mentality, right? Like, just do what makes you happy and sod the rest. No, I'm not advocating for quitting your job and trying to make it as a macrame artist, but I am saying that it wouldn't hurt to put a few pieces in at a local art show. Maybe it goes somewhere, maybe it doesn't. But you can always work towards that stuff. You don't have to completely 180 your lifestyle to try something new. And that's why I'm here, and that's what I'm doing. Definitely use connections you have if you want to switch fields, and you have people within that field. I'm reaching out to every artist I know and asking them a million questions. Some of them are way more successful than I could ever hope to be. Like, for instance, Travis Williams. If you've never... Oh, Travis. What's Travis's last name? Lewis? Travis Lewis. There are too many Travises. He's an artist, and he does Lovecraftian horror stuff. He's actually on the back of... It's a book about Lovecraft. I want to say it's his autobiography, but yeah, Travis is insanely successful. But he's also a really humble and good person, so whenever I've got derpy artist questions, I usually talk to him about stuff, and he's been super cool and helpful. He doesn't have to answer my questions, like, he has no requirement. But he does. And I really appreciate that of him. I do. We're about to lose phone battery, so I'm going to end this for now. But we'll definitely be back later, and we'll see you then.